Welcome to Sports Bet Daily. I'm Flash, and I hope you've all had a good weekend. If you followed us last week, you can't not have had a good weekend. It was the second major of the year for the golfers. Bethpage Black was the venue, and we gave you the winner, Brooks Koepka. We had Craig Edwards on at Edwards Tips, and he looked after us with quite a few different bets. And we also had Lucas Glover top 20 at 4.7. We're going to be going to have a look at the PGA Tour again this week that moves to Dallas. It's a Colonial Charles Schwab Classic. We'll also have Adam from Esports. Really looking forward to that one because in this game, you never know enough. And if there's someone that can teach anyone something new that can give us an edge, then I'm definitely all ears. And also we're going to have Russ. Obviously, you'll know Russ from the Premier League Punters. He's going to be darts now. Football season's finishing. Darts. Don't worry about his football picks. His darts picks are absolutely on fire. So I'm looking forward to seeing Russ. And we'll also have a little bit of a look into the future, the snooker. We had a little touch on it last week with Judd Trump winning at the Crucible in Sheffield. But now we want to have a little look. Who's going to be the next Judd Trump? Who's going to come through and really push? I don't envy their chances because there's such an array of talent out there. And as we touched on last week, I don't think that snooker has ever been tougher. But we're going to start off today. We're going to start off with the darts. And my old mate Russ is going to come in. And here he is. Russ, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Flash. Enjoying the beautiful sunshine here in London.
Yeah, you look like you've been on the sunbed, mate.
No sunbeds. With this lovely scalp I've got on top, it's quite easy to get a nice tan. So yeah, it's been good weather here the last few days, and obviously looking forward to the Premier League darts final this Thursday at the O2 London.
Yeah, so let's like pick on the darts as a sport in general. It's absolutely massive across the world. It's like gigantic viewing figures on the TV, but it's always a packed house as well.
Yeah, it's a workman's like sport, and the fans absolutely love it. You can go down the pub with your mates, have a few pints. It's good fun. You catch up, you have a laugh. But there's nothing like going to the darts venue where you do exactly the same, and there's loud music, there's great live sport, and there's great camaraderie between all the fans, whether it's a few thousand or, again, maybe 10 or 11,000 as it will be at the O2 this Thursday. It's great fun. It's great live entertainment. And the PDC, I know them very well. I've done a lot of work with them. They put on a great show week in, week out throughout the 16 weeks of the Premier League. Plus, when it comes to the event over December and January at the Alexandra Palace, London, it's a fabulous event. People come from all around the world to have a night out. And yeah, there's loads of beer drunk, but it's all in good humour. There's loads of fancy dress, and everyone has a great time. And obviously, for us punters, again, we can get a nice angle. And obviously these 16 weeks we've had plenty of winners.
So we start off with Daryl Gurney versus MVG. Gurney, any chance whatsoever? Is there an upset?
There absolutely could be an upset. The last time they played each other, Gurney won 8-5. If we look at football where you've got the playoffs and you crawl into sixth place, and then you get to the final, there's absolutely every chance of Gurney causing upset. But the only thing is he's facing the world number one, Michael van Gerwen. Van Gerwen will be right up for defending his title. And it's a tough order. But I think as we come to in terms of tips, I can't back Gurney on the outright. But I am looking at Gurney plus 3.5 legs, which means obviously if Van Gerwen wins 10-7, then that counts as obviously a win, which I think 10-7, 10-8 Van Gerwen will be my play. So I think the handicap's the way to go here.
What sort of price is that, Russ, at plus 3.5 for Gurney?
That's 2.1.
Okay, so you're saying you're getting odds against, you double your money?
Yeah, that's my top tip for the semi-final. It's a tough order for Gurney to win. Sorry, Flash.
Do you think that Michael van Gerwen goes all the way in the competition as well, though?
Yeah, look, he's 4-7. He's red hot favourite when it comes to finals night. When it comes to the big event, he is the man to beat. And over the longer distance are 10 legs in the semi-final. The final's even longer. His high score and his high checkout, his just world #1 status usually comes up. And when it comes to those really tight legs, I think his quality stands out. Like with Phil the Power Taylor, people got scared. People were scared to play Taylor because they knew that they don't really have a chance. Gurney will have a chance, but when it comes to the latter legs, I just think MVG will probably have enough.
There's loads of different markets on all the different sports. Is there any fun markets where people can have an interest? Because potentially you've got maybe 18, 19 legs. So what sort of markets do you play other than just the outrights and maybe the handicapping?
Well, obviously it's 2 to 9 Van Gogh to win. So the one bet that you could do that takes you all the way from the first leg to the last leg is, I think it's around about 5 to 2, so 3.5. Van Gogh to win, Van Gogh to score the most 180s, and Van Gogh to have the highest checkout. That's a nice sort of treble bet in one that gives you value if you fancy Van Gogh and you think, you know what, he's also going to score the most 180s and he's going to get the highest checkout as well. So that's always a nice market to play.
Yeah, I like that. And is there betting in between legs, or do you know, like, who's going to win the next leg? And because a lot of it goes with darts, so do you get quite good value for winning against the head?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're facing Michael Van Gogh. And yeah, there's as in tennis, there's next leg, tennis, next set, next game betting. So yeah, there's in-play betting all the way through Thursday night, and again all through the 16 weeks that we've had in the Premier League of darts.
So this is almost like a David and Goliath type thing with a household name rather than ability, because as you say, that Gurney's already had success against MVG. But in the other one, you've got James Wade versus Rob Cross. Now, a few years ago, you'd have had James Wade being favourite, but on this occasion, Rob Cross. So where's the value in James Wade other than being the dog?
Again, looking at the last time these two played, you've got Cross that's favourite here, 4 to 6, versus just under 11 to 10. They played each other last week, which Wade won 8-5. Now, last week it didn't really matter for Wade. Wade had qualified, but for Cross, if Cross would have won, he would have got #1 seed. Then would have played Gurney. So Cross has been absolutely superb week in, week out. He's won the punters plenty of money because we've tipped him up at odds against, and he's thrown fantastic darts all the way through the 16 weeks. But again, the odds are very close here. My top tip is to play over 17.5 legs. So I think this is going to be very close, whether it's 10-9 or 10-8, and that's at 1.83. So I think that's definitely worth a go here. I don't see either of these two players running away with it, like Van Gogh may win by 2 or 3. This will go all the way down to the wire.
So if we've got 4 to 6, which is probably like 1.66 for Rob Cross, we're looking at 2.3 for really a coin flip with James Wade.
Yeah, 4 to 6, 1.67 Rob Cross, 13 to 10, 2.3 James Wade to win.
Yeah, not bad there. My little head was going. I was thinking, bit of value there, 2.3. The alarms were going off because I'm thinking at some stage here, it's not inconceivable that we could have James Wade, who is a big-time player. We could have him in the front and we could actually trade out.
100%. And looking at Wade's performance in the Premier League of darts, so he finished 3rd. He beat Cross. He also beat Michael Van Gogh. As I put in the article, Wade 15 to 2, so 8.5 to win. He's going to have to play 2 phenomenal games to beat Cross and MVG, thus his 3rd favourite. Can he do it? It's going to take a monumental effort because Wade, he does sometimes lose concentration, does sometimes miss the doubles. His scoring's been pretty good, but again, I'm just not sure he'll get it done. But you're absolutely right. After last week's match, Wade may have the mental block of Cross and may be able to get the job done. Thus, again, for me, the 1.8 over 16.5 legs, I would have thought that would be a lot shorter. I think this is going to go right down to the wire. My head says I think Cross again, like Van Gerwen, will win. And again, from what we spoke about previously, the treble of Cross to win, Cross highest checkout, and Cross most 180s is at 3.5. So again, that would be my alternative bet to the over 16.5 legs.
Okay, so we can mirror the MVG. Michael Van Gerwen to win, highest checkout, most 180s at 5-2. So you're basically thinking to yourself, well, it's a given he's going to win, right? He's a massively heavy scorer. So really, his 180s you'd think are going to be up there. So it's just whether the highest checkout. Well, Michael Van Gerwen, is that 3.5 as well?
Flash, give me 1 sec. I think that may have just come in a little bit. Stay there 1 sec.
Yeah, that'll be all the Sports Bet Daily viewers that you keep rabbiting and they're nicking your price. But that's what we're here for. But Rob Cross as well. Rob, see, I can't have the Rob Cross. I think that you've got to go or start with the bigger price because it is such a flip of a coin. I mean, I'm surprised they're not 10 to 11 each of two, to be honest. And there's some fun markets to have as well.
Yeah, look, Wade did win last week. Ultimately, it didn't mean anything. But Cross, as I said, the 16 weeks of the Premier League of Darts, Cross has been superb, finishing in second place, only just beaten by 1 point to MVG. I think Cross finished on 24 points. Wade finished on 19. So that was that big difference in performance cumulatively over the 16 weeks. Thus, Cross's favourite. So again, you could discard last week, and again over the. Obviously, it's the first to 10 legs. Again, Cross has been in superb form, and Wade's inconsistency, obviously, thus him finishing in third place.
Yeah, you say it don't mean anything, but surely, just on paper, Rob Cross would have beaten James Wade, and he must have preferred to have played Gurney rather than James Wade. James Wade can beat anyone on his day. So was it a factor that he just didn't turn up, and he could be running out of gas?
Potentially, obviously, if you use the football scenario when it comes to the end of the season, they just got that far and they just couldn't get over the line. All will be revealed on Thursday night. But Flash, you're absolutely right. The value can be on Wade. And playing that 2.3, Wade may well certainly get ahead, which means obviously you can lay that when it comes a lot shorter.
So you give us a quick recap, please, Russ, on your plays for both games, and give us your play on who actually lifts the trophy.
Sure. Van Gerwen versus Gurney, the first semi-final. We're playing Gurney plus 3.5 legs at 2.1. As we said, I think this is going to be a lot closer. I can see MVG winning 10-7, 10-8, which means that play comes in. So that's MVG in the final. Cross Wade, we're going over 16.5 legs at 1.83. I think this is going to be very close, 10-9, either player. I think Cross will just get through, probably 10-9, 10-8, just because again the 16 weeks he has been superb, and I'm not counting last week as a key indicator to who's going to get through. Looking at the final, I don't think you can see past MVG when the big money's on the table for the biggest prizes of all, which is the World Championships in December and also the Premier League of Darts. Van Gerwen will show up and he'll show up strong. So again, it's a short price, 4-7. But yeah, I think Van Gerwen will come out on top Thursday night.
Okay, it sounds to me as there's a little bit of value in you saying Van Gerwen to win, and maybe a little double with Rob Cross to win his semi-final, 4-6, 4-7. It might be the way to go. That.
Yeah, one put off that. So the MVG is 2-9 to win his semi-finals. It was 2-9, 4-6 double.
No. Yeah. I'm talking about MVG to win it outright at 4-7, but Rob Cross to win his semi-final at 4-6.
Or if the bookers allow you to do it, yeah, that's not a bad shout.
Okay, listen, Russ. Good luck, mate. Let's hope the darts reward you a lot more than that Premier League punters. Excuse me for just sticking one into you there.
Pleasure, Flash. No problem. Yeah, I'm quietly confident with those two singles. I'll be watching it on Thursday night with interest.
Top man, and we'll see you again soon, eh?
Brilliant. Cheers, Flash. Keep well. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Cheers, Russ. Take care. That's Russ Yurst. He was our darts correspondent, looking at Gurney versus Michael van Gerwen and Rob Cross versus James Wade. Now, next, after a 12-1 winner, Brooks Koepka. If we're talking golf, we've got to go to Craig Edwards at Edwards Tips. It was a great weekend last week. Let's see where he is. Here he is, Craig. You did say that we would be chatting this week and we would have the winners covered.
Well, we did, yeah. I mean, you just you mentioned Brooks, and the course exaggerated the difference in quality, and his length and playing so well put him at such an advantage. There was only really Dustin Johnson that probably could have gone with him last week. I mean, Tiger and Rory at the best could have gone with him, but he really put Tiger to the sword in the opening couple of rounds, and I think even Tiger was a little bit probably intimidated for the first time in his career even.
I think you hit the nail on the head last week, Craig, when you said the reason that you said 9-mile walk, undulations, that's what had Tiger cooked for me. I think that the fatigue factor of not being able to swing the ball on the 18th hole, the same as you do on the first, just killed him. And it killed 90% of it. But you look at him, they say that Brooks Koepka's the fittest man. And it was a great price as well.
It was in the end. He actually, it was a great price to start with. And then after the first round, I wrote an update and mentioned that there was quite a little weather advantage, or I thought there was at the time, going to the second round, where he had quite a draw advantage over the first 2 days. And there was still some 7-4 about in the second day. And he was starting in the best of the conditions. And he put it to bed. By the end of the second round, he'd put the tournament to bed effectively, apart from a little bump down the back nine on the final day. Well, he just, you will know in future that when we get to the courses that exaggerate kind of the length, he's going to be the man to beat. Any of these majors where length is key and driving straight. Like you said as well, the fitness of them courses, it had been kind of damp in New York leading up to it, and it's got to tell with Tiger because he couldn't make the final day's practice either, could he? He had to kind of not play on the Wednesday before. He's having to be so cautious. There's only so many more good days for Tiger, I think.
Yeah, I think you just got it is the old cliche of horses for courses. Now you know that any British Open, links play where you've got to have discipline and low ball flight and an unbelievable short game and imagination, then you don't rule out Tiger. When it comes to brute strength, then you know there's a handful of players. And I mean, you have a look at one stage, you had the 4 or 5 biggest hitters on tour in the top 7 or 8. Even Luke List was up there, who just grips it, rips it, and goes and finds it. And sometimes he can't find it with a map or a compass because that's how far he hits it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think the one thing, though, I will say in Brooks' defence is that this week coming up at the Colonial, last year he was second. It's a real trappy little course where you can't hit a driver. And he's not playing this week, but he has entered them in the past, like the Byron Nelson, and he's actually played better in them type events than Tiger ever did on fiddly little courses. So it is possible that down the line, Brooks is going to become a better all-round player than Tiger.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that, Craig, because we're going to go to the Colonial this week, who I think is, first of all, I think it's a little bit like the Heritage, where the you must be disciplined and take your irons and just hit your greens and your fairways. But I look at it and I think, how many of these players are going to have a massive hangover from Bethpage? How much damage to the individuals did Bethpage do? So I think there's probably a big value on the outsiders this week if you can pick the right players.
I think there is. I think there's a plethora of outsiders that have quite similar chances to me. And you may even want to favour the ones that didn't play last week, but most of them kind of did. So you've got CT Pan that won at the Heritage. Yep. So you know that he's going to fit this course. He was 20th last year. Kevin Tway, who's already won on the PGA Tour this year, has had 2 good performances here in previous years when he hasn't been playing so well. He comes here about 100 to 1. And Danny Lee showed up well last week in the early stages. I mean, like you say though, it may have harmed him, Bethpage, but he'd had a iffy season till then, so he will have some confidence. Some players, I do think, Bethpage will have knocked it out of them, like you say, Flash. They will have got fatigued, and in doing so, their swing will have suffered as the days have gone on, as you've got to the 4th round, and they'll probably have to go back to the drawing board at the start of this week just to get themselves back in their own little groove with the game. I mean, Zach Johnson showed up well last week. I thought he must have a chance this week. He's twice a winner here. He's quite a fiddly little player himself. It's all going to depend on what players bounce from last week, and so they just don't back it up with another performance, and what players feed off it. I mean, I do think Jordan Spieth will feed off it this week. I think he's back in his hometown. I think he's going to end up like Ben Hogan with a similar profile here of kind of owning this tournament. And last week was the best he's played all season on a course that suited the Bombers, which he really isn't one of them. I know people have said, well, he's too short in the betting this week at 14 to 1. But then people have to remember that the previous 2 years he's been going off at 9 to 2 and 7 to 1. He is a winner, and he's back on his favourite course, playing well. And you know Jordan Spieth loves the limelight, doesn't he? He must have hated these previous months where he's been out of the limelight, having to play down the field. You always get the feeling when you watch Jordan Spieth, he's kind of quite entertaining, quite cavalier in his approach. And so I'm expecting a big performance from Jordan Spieth this week. I really am. I think last week back in the limelight will suit him, and a bit of confidence. He's young enough. He shouldn't have any physical effects from Bethpage, should he? So we've got to think of him. But like you say, Flash, maybe this is the week, apart from Jordan, to look at the top end of the lower down in the market, around the 100 to 1 shot, I think.
Well, I've gone for a 25 to 1 shot, and he's half the forgotten man. He's not an actual player, as in a personality that I like, but I've got to go against my personal opinion, Bryson DeChambeau, because he's double the odds that he would have been 8 weeks ago. He's around the 25, 28 to 1 mark. And on the second round at Bethpage, because obviously he missed the cut, he went double bogey, triple bogey, bogey, 6 over, first 3 holes, 10, 11 and 12, finished. That's you done. And then he sort of parred in. So his golf game was not in bad situation. He just ruined any chance he had. He shot a 72, which is no problem at all in the first round. And then you can't go 6 over within 3 holes and your first 3 holes and think you're going to be able to get it back. So I like Bryson at 25 because you know what he's like. Technician, hits his irons, hits his greens, and he putts. Don't like him, but I like his chances and I like his odds. The other one is Happy Barmrat. Again,
right.
I've heard he's gone back to his old putting coach, and he's now starting to roll the ball better. The thing is with Barmrat, he can mix it with anyone, tee to green, but he misses the putts. A bit like your Matsuyama. He's a little bit like your Scott Piercy, who 2 weeks ago in Dallas had enough putts from six foot and in to win 2 tournaments. But I think Appy Barmrat around the 80 to 100 to 1. I'm just going to go with them 2 this week, because another thing I always do, Craig, I take a week off after a major because you don't know who's going to turn up and who's having the hangover.
Of course, that's it. And you make that was a good point about Bryson DeChambeau. Now you've made the point. It's come to me that in the early part of his career, the place he excelled at when he was trying to make his get his card was the Heritage, at the Heritage Classic, which is the course with the strongest correlation to this week. I kind of overlooked him, to be fair, but you've made a good point that, and of course it won't have taken that much out of him last week. So the beauty of backing Bryson DeChambeau is this: if he gets in the van, he more than likely wins. So you're not backing a player that is going to back off when he gets to the Sunday. He is a player that wins when he gets in the van. So that's a really good, I can kind of back that up with a bit more form line, and it looks an absolute, quite a nice bet that people aren't necessarily seeing. I'm like you, I'm not keen on him. He drives me nuts watching him. But, Appy Barnrat, now, you make a good point about him as well. Amongst the professionals, they talk about him like he stripes the ball. He impresses them with the way he hits the golf ball and the way he flushes it. And people have spoken about him having a chance at Wentworth and things like that. Well, that's a bit longer than this week Wentworth, but it's a similar course where you've got to be able to shape your shots and you're playing through tree-lined fairways and what have you. So, yeah, it's quite an interesting couple of picks there. I'd not really looked too deeply at either of them, to be fair. I didn't, but, you make a good point, and I don't think either will be having a hangover from Bethpage either.
Craig, can you just summarise just for this tournament, what your picks are going to be? And at the end, can you give our viewers, because obviously we need to give them all the information and there's plenty more than we can actually go through now. Can you give them where they can find your write-ups and where you can find all your tips?
Yeah, no problem. So this week, my 4 picks on oddsmarket.com. Jordan Spieth is my first one. Like I've covered here, I fancy his chances. Zach Johnson, he is, again, covered here. I like his chances. He's a winner. Kevin Tway is the 3rd selection. I've also, on my article, I've put in a first-round leader bet for Kevin Na. He's won this market 3 times, would you believe? And that's a remarkable feat, but he's also been placed once. I tipped him up to my members last year at Edwards Tips, and they got on at 66s. He's a similar price this year. He's almost a blind bet.
66s.
Yeah, and so I really like the chances of Kevin Na this week in the first round leader. He may actually compete for the tournament as well. And I think that's kind of covered it. Was there something else I needed to cover there, Flash, that you mentioned?
Yeah, just where they can find out all the information from your tips for the upcoming golf.
Yeah, it's on oddsmarket.com. On tips, click on tips, click on more sports. But normally, if you click on tips, betting tips, you'll find my article there.
Cheers, Craig. I'm just going to add on to that, as I said to you before, Appy Barmrat around the 80 to 1 mark. That's Kuradek Appy Barmrat, and Bryson DeChambeau 25 to 1 for the Colonial this week, Charles Schwab Championship. Okay, now we're going to go on to the snooker. We touched last week about Judd Trump winning at the Crucible. This week, Craig, I want to talk about up-and-coming players and what markets and what odds can we get and what sort of edges can we get when the big boys and the big tournaments are not in play?
Right, well, at the moment, you've got the qualifying school for the new season. The new season starts in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Qualifying school lasts another 2 weeks. So that's 3 events and the 4 semi-finalists each event going forward. This year, the qualifying school standard has gone through the roof in these opening 3 days. And we've got a lot of overseas talent come. We've got Ben Mertens, who's a 13-year-old from Belgium. He's already made a century, and he's already through 2 rounds. Rhys Davis, a Welsh lad, he's about 14. We've got Lulian Buku from the Ukraine. Now, Alan Trigg was a professional with me, and he runs the Snooker Academy out there. And he spoke highly of him to me, and he mentioned that he's got the raw ability of a Judd Trump. He's travelled all the way from the Ukraine at 13 and he's already won his opening 2 matches. So all them players are now only 3 matches away from their status in their teens, in their early teens. There was one that I totally missed. CG Jiao, he's a Chinese player. I'd already covered the Q School for oddsmarket.com last week. I didn't mention this lad, but he played a local professional I know of that's just come off tour, Jamie Barrett. He beat him 4-0, and that made me look up, made me take notice. And then I looked at his match yesterday. He won 4-0 again with a century break, another 60 break. He's only 16, he's from China. We don't know a lot about him, but suddenly we've got all this young talent come to the Q School. It's never been here before. Normally we've got a plethora of journeyman professionals who are still trying to get some kind of living, and it's going to be an interesting couple of years going forward, because if these lads don't make it this year, this will be experience for future years. And it would appear there's some really young talent. This week on oddsmarket.com, I'm writing an article on some players to follow for the coming season. And at Edwards Tips, we keep data of their current form and their break building statistics, and it's quite a tell, especially in the 50 break consistency. And picked out 5 players from that. First one, would you believe, is one you'll know well, which is Martin Gould. Only played 50% of tournaments last year, gave himself an easy year, come back, won the Championship League, and then qualified for the Crucible and pushed Mark Williams on the opening day. His statistics are still that of a top 16 player. Then we like Nopon Sangakam, who was semi-finalist in China at the start of last season, losing to Mark Williams from 5-2 up in the semi-finals, 6-5. He's a remarkable break builder. He's in the top 10 for centuries last season. That's with people like Judd Trump, Ronnie O'Sullivan. So he's still down the rankings, but in actual fact, his ability is a top 10 player. So he looks the next player for a breakthrough. And, you know, in the early tournaments this season, people should be looking to get on him.
Craig, what you say about these boys are going to tour school or the Q School? How many go through, and what do they go through to? Right,
so you got 3 tournaments, 4 from each go through. The semi-finalists, there's 200 players start. So when that first 4 go through, they don't enter the next 2 events. Then you get 4 more and 4 more, and then it's the top 4 on the rankings over the 3 tournaments come in to make 16 players get a 2-year professional tour card, and then they can play the 23 ranking tournaments each season. They can't fall off the tour in the opening season. They've got 2 seasons to try and earn their money to stay on tour. And so that is the prize at the end of it. And I'm really getting quite hopeful that we're going to see a couple of teenagers make the tour. And that will really start to shake things up in snooker. And I've got a feeling that there's been quite a stagnation behind the scenes in Great Britain and what have you, and we've known that there's all these overseas talent for years, and suddenly they're all over here, And not only, as you think, from China, but like I said, you've got the lad from Belgium, 13-year-old, making century breaks. You've got, and we know how good Luca Brazil is, a very similar player. And then we've got a lad from the Ukraine at 13. And suddenly, the normal professionals that are in the top 128 year in, year out are going to have more difficult first rounds. They are going to be facing a harder time to earn a living, I do believe. I mean, you touched on it last week with snooker, that the standard's never been higher. Well, I think the standard's going to go again now. I think Judd Trump's moved the bar at the top, and I actually think the bar at the bottom is now going to go way up. And like I say, we've got some really good statistics that we've collected, and there's no hiding place from players that aren't going to play to the standard required. They're just going to get overpowered by these young lads.
Okay then, Craig. Listen, we've obviously covered all the snooker. We've covered the golf. Obviously, people can follow you at Edwards Tips. So during the week and during the competition of the Colonial, you'll be giving them little updates and maybe finding them some in play as well. Yes,
I'm happy to. Yeah, I will update my articles, give a little tweet how they're doing, and maybe with a bit of in play, like you say, Flash.
Make sure you add Bryson DeChambeau. Thanks, Craig.
I will be, yeah. Thank you,
Cheers,
Flash.
Mate, and I'll look forward to speaking to you next week with a winner.
Yeah, same again. Same time, same place. Again. Bye,
Thanks,
Flash.
Craig. Good luck. That was Craig Edwards at Edwards Tips, golf, snooker, encyclopedia of knowledge. I get the feeling that I could have been there for 3 or 4 hours and I could have wandered off, cooked me dinner and just left him there, and he would have given you all the information you need. Now, this is the part of the show that I actually have really been looking forward to, because it's something that I know very little about, but I'm all ears. And we're going to, it's esports. We're going to have Adam on, and he's going to tell us what it's all about and how to get the edge. And at Odds Market and Bet Sport Daily, we're all about getting an edge. So look forward to Adam. There's Adam. Adam, how are you?
Good, Flash. It's nice to hear that you're going in with a positive perspective, because I know for a lot of people they hear esports and they think, I don't want to have anything to do with it, especially from a betting perspective. Why would I want to put money on some nerds playing video games? So it's nice to hear that you're all ears, and hopefully some of the listeners are as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, can you educate newbies? Because the thing is, when something starts, and everything had a start, that unless you know, you've got to listen. Because only a fool wouldn't listen if there's an opportunity, 1, to make money, and 2, to enjoy something.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The thing I always tell people is the money is just as green as betting football or tennis, and the market is a lot softer simply because the people that generally are betting it are just casual punters. There's very little sharp money in esports, and I've been doing it for 3 years full time, and it's not everything I do, but it's definitely the most stable, I guess, outside of the North American sport off season. So no, I love it. As far as what we're talking about today, it's just one esport called Counter-Strike Global Offensive, CSGO. And just like with sports, every single game has its significant differences in the rules, the way it's played, the strategy, and the talent. So, yeah, I guess where do you want to begin? Should we talk about the tournament coming up, or?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd like to know that is esports all different sports, or is it? Because I know that obviously you've given me some background. You were kind enough to give me some bullet points, and you say that there's 6 teams and there's a best of 2 in each game. But what is it? Is it people actually playing soccer or football against each other, or is it other games? What is it?
So the game that we're talking about today is a first-person shooter. So if you ever played GoldenEye or Halo or Call of Duty, these are very popular mainstream games that pretty much any 21st century kid will know is a household name. This game, Counter-Strike, has been around since the late 90s. That's when I actually picked it up, about 13, I think I was. So this one is a shooter. Now, esports, as far as the field of games, I mean, FIFA has actually become one of the more popular video games. I mean, in the UK, but also around the world. And that's becoming a popular esport. But I mean, we could talk about every individual game, and again, I could be here for 4 or 5 hours. But we'll just focus on the one coming up this week. So for this tournament, you're right. There's 6 teams. It's a very small tournament called the CS Summit in Los Angeles. And the format's actually quite unique. It's a retro format back to the old school days of Counter-Strike and esports tournaments where friends would get together at a house and throw a party over a weekend, and they'd hook up multiple computers or Xboxes all in the house so they could play each other locally. I mean, this is before high-speed internet when you could easily just play from your own houses. So the CS Summit, it's a very boutique little tournament, and everybody sort of hangs around the house, has drinks and food, and it's Los Angeles, so the weather's nice. So I have my eye on a few, one outright in particular that we can go over. But any questions about that so far?
Well, no, listen, I love it, and I don't want to bore the people out there, but I got to number 73 in the world with Shogun. And I used to have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning because of the people in my team were in Thailand. So they were hours ahead of me, and the people in America, North America, who were 5 or 6 hours behind me. So, I mean, Shogun, I had, when I was a professional footballer, I broke my leg twice. So I was in rehab. So I didn't have to train for like 6 to 8 months. So I was up all night playing Shogun. So, I had my part in the team.
Was that Shogun Total War? What Shogun was it?
Total War. Yeah, it was original. Yeah. 98
to
about 2001.
That's hilarious.
So I know where I'm at with that. I was quite happy being with my warrior monks and everything else. Listen, I'm going off on a tangent. Find me some value, and what is your outright?
Absolutely. I'm going to have to pick your brain about that because I have not met anybody in 20 years other than my brother who's played Shogun Total War. So we're going to have to chat about that another time. So the 6 teams attending are a very talented field. The world number 2, well, I think they're number 3 currently, but in my eyes, the second best team in the world, Liquid, is the outright favorite. You can get them between 2.3 and 2.5 just about everywhere. Now, that's the team I'm going to be taking to win the CS Summit. Even though 2.3 isn't a great price on an outright, you have to remember there's only 6 teams. The top 4 all go to playoffs, and then they play 2 best-of-3s. So Liquid could go 1-1 through all of the round-robin matches, group stage matches, and then get, if they go first or second, they'll get probably a favorable seed, and then they have an excellent map pool. So I'm really, provided that they get to the finals and they're in good form, I really don't see them slipping up here. I think that's still good value. So I've gone with them. Now, a few of the other teams attending have beat them, taken maps off of them in the past. So if Liquid is looking shaky in the group stage, it's not like I'm going to ride or die with them all week long. It's something I never like to do. We see it's just like with tennis, where you'll see from one tournament to the next, a certain pro is in better form, more well rested. So if Liquid sort of shows up and they're using it as a training weekend prior to their tournament next week, then I'll definitely be looking to fade them because they'll surely be a favorite against everybody this week. So yeah, that's my outright. But it's a smaller tournament, and I want viewers to be careful with this one because 5 of the 6 teams are attending DreamHack Dallas, which is the much bigger tournament next week. So it's very possible that teams that are coming to Los Angeles are just getting warmed up like a boot camp style training ground before they go to Dallas. So some teams might come in wanting to win the trophy. I think Liquid has a better chance for their price this week than they do for their price next week, if that makes sense. So it would be like getting Nadal in a smaller 500 tournament prior to Roland Garros, where he might be a shorter favorite for the 500 tournament, but there's a much more stacked field at the French Open. So the value, even though it's a shorter price, actually makes sense at the smaller tournament.
And you know he's going to be tuned in. Now you mentioned best of 2. So what happens with a 1v1? What happens with like a 1-on-1? Is it like a playoff or? So the group stage matches, they're round robin. I personally do not like the format this year. I was talking to a colleague about it. Best of 2, they're less exciting because teams tend to trade maps. They usually get one of their own maps in, one of the opponents. And unfortunately, like I was looking at the odds over at Pinnacle, and so you can bet. There's a 2-way market where you can bet, let's say, Vitality or Ghost, and you would need either one of those to win both maps for that to cash. So you get a lot of pushes. Now you could take Ghost at plus 1.5, like to win one of the 2 maps, but again, because it's a best of 2 as opposed to best of 3, you kind of lose a lot of value that you would get on a full series. So it's tricky. It's sort of comparable to like seeing in football where you have your 3-way market, either team to win or a draw, compared to an Asian line. With an Asian line, you can at least you can buy down so you can get the right, team to win by a certain amount of goals. With this, you can't buy down. So it's either you're taking one team to win both, you're taking one team to cover a spread, or you're taking a draw. And the market, they're just not fun, I guess. It's very difficult to hit winners at good value. You get a lot of, as I said, pushes. So personally, that's why I'm not a fan of the best of 2. Adam, you're talking to the man who loves a draw because it's the forgotten one. People think that when you've got a 1v1, there has to be a winner. Well, so many times the actual value is in the middle, and especially if these boys are not tuned in and they are going to use it as a training weekend. So what sort of odds would there be on, if just say we've got the 6 teams, we've got the round robins, so how many draws do you think there could be?
Well, see, but that's the thing is, I sort of misspoke when I said that. The format, it's instead of being best of 2, it's actually 2 best of 1s. So they're not offering the draw.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So even a best of 2 would actually be preferable. In this case, we're just getting like, I was looking over it. It's not a fun one. The reason in my article I didn't actually take any match bets is because I want to see the actual maps, as you know, with Shogun, even like the terrain, right? That's your map, and some teams specialize on particular maps. That's the case here. I want to see what teams are picking what maps, and then try and pick them on that map, as opposed to picking them to draw hypothetically. So that's how I'm viewing it. But you're exactly right. Draw is the forgotten option. People like to go for the winner. That's what they want to see. It's like betting unders. Nobody likes to bet unders because they're watching a game. They want to see goals go in. They don't want to be on the edge of their seat worried about a 92nd minute goal.
Hey, as we said before, there's all ways to make money, and if you think it's going to be a 0-0 or a 1-1 or just a 1-0, and you've got teams who can't score goals, then you've got to go with it. Now, I'm like, obviously, you've got me intrigued because obviously it's flicked the Shogun switch in my head. So have we got a defense and attack going on here on different maps? Have you got a repel? So obviously, if you've got the right sort of strategy to defend? Is it easier to defend
Yeah.
than attack in some of these games?
That's a great analogy for it, actually, and I've never really thought about it that way. But intrinsically, I
I was
probably have.
73 in the world, Adam. You're not talking to like just some divvy. You know what I mean? I used to do it 20 hours a day.
Do you know what, Flash? RTS games like Shogun are incredibly popular again, and like StarCraft you might have heard of, or Age of Empires. I mean, those are old school games. But we'll talk about that another day. We'll have to have you on when I'm talking StarCraft, because Shogun's definitely a parallel. But as far as attacking and defending, with Counter-Strike, absolutely. So there's a counter-terrorist side, the CTs, and there's a terrorist side, Ts. On particular maps, they lean a little bit more CT or T-sided. And I was chatting with a guy, Bill, while we were listening to the other guys. He's identified a very basic foundational part of betting Counter-Strike, which is you can catch live prices as teams switch from defense to attack and vice versa. If it's easier on a map like Train or Nuke to be on the defending side and a team is trailing, it's like, I'm trying to draw. It would be like in football. All of a sudden, you're going against the wind, or going with the wind as opposed to against the wind. That would be, I guess, a similar kind of way to look at it.
Or fighting uphill.
Yeah,
if you're trying to
exactly.
attack uphill, that's the best way.
Yeah. If you're playing on one of those sort of Sunday Football League pitches where it's slanted down a little bit, maybe that would be the perfect analogy for it as well. But yeah, you're absolutely right, and I encourage people to. I posted 2 articles I wrote last year talking about maps and how they lean one way or the other, and I should probably retweet them. It's probably about time, because I think a lot of bettors get in their mind, my team has this lead, they should win the map, rather than thinking, is the lead that they currently have enough when they switch sides? So, no, you're absolutely right. And I think you have a sort of a esports blood built into you, Flash. I think you should come and chat about it more often in the future.
Well, I think it's the same with anything like this. Obviously, before I went into Shogun, I had to read a book, because it was all about the strategy and honor of the way that we played, and that obviously helped you in battles because you went the right way about it. It's the same as this. I'd have to watch and learn and see, but you've already the only way we're going to grow this is by you keep throwing it out there, and us giving you the platform to educate people like myself.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Are you happy with that Liquid at 2.3 to 2.5 as we stand at the moment?
Yeah, so I took him at Unibet 2.5. I know there's a couple guys that are colleagues. I think someone got them at 3.0 a week ago. That was great. I still like them. I like them, honestly, for anything above 2. I know that sounds like a short price for an outright winner, but there's 6 teams. Liquid, if they're in form and they want to win this tournament, that is a great price for them. It also, as I said, as the week develops, they really are sort of saving their strategies for the next tournament that we sometimes see, then we can look to flip it. It's 2.0, it's 1 unit, or sorry, 2.5, it's 1 unit, and I'm happy to get involved at that price.
Adam, good luck. We'll be watching. Maybe we'll speak next week, and the next one in Dallas.
That's right. Yeah, and that's a big tournament, so we'll definitely have our work cut out for us.
Okay, well, let's hope you're taking a few green ones on to Dallas, and I think all eyes will be on Liquid this weekend, and then maybe
right.
Liquid. Will they then go on and be favourites again?
Well, that's exactly what I said in the article. Is if Liquid doesn't cash this week, we'll get a better price if we want to take them next week. If they do cash, the money's going to come in on them for next week, and we can look at some of the other teams. The field is very talented next week, so I think Liquid should be in one of the 2 finals, and I think this is the more ideal one based on the field of teams. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen and ask the right questions today, Flash, and we'll talk next week.
Adam, good luck, mate. Thanks a lot.
See ya.
No worries at all. That was Adam talking about esports. Certainly flicked the switch in my brain, because although I came into this whole thing thinking I know nothing about esports, 20 years ago, I was probably bang in the middle of esports, but you just couldn't bet on it and find a way to earn money. Let me give you a quick recap on this Sports Bet Daily. We're going with the golf this weekend. Colonial, we've got DeChambeau, we've got Appy Barmrat, we've got Spieth. Go to Edwards Tips, have a look at what he's wrote for Odds Market. We've also got the darts, Gurney versus Van Gerwen. Van Gerwen looks like he's from Russ. He's given us Michael Van Gerwen to win. Michael Van Gerwen, highest checkout. Michael Van Gerwen, most 180s at 3.5. And he's all over Rob Cross and James Wade, over 16.5. And he also likes Daryl Gurney plus 3.5. So he thinks anything better than 10-7 for Gurney, then he's going to cash there. I've been Flash. This has been Sports Bet Daily. Until next week, have a great time, and may all your bets be winners. Take care.